Welcome back, AP Calculus students. Mr. Record here, and we're going to take a look at our final video over this pretty lengthy topic, 3.1, that covers an all-important concept called the chain rule. And in our example number 9, we're going to use the chain rule in a little bit different way. It's not so much the chain rule that's different, it's the way that the functions are being presented to us that's a bit different. And you might like this way because it doesn't have you jump through a lot of algebraic hoops or necessarily have to memorize any derivative formulas, but you certainly have to demonstrate some pretty good knowledge of the chain rule. So let's take a look at this question. So as it says, the values of two differentiable functions f of x and g of x rather, along with their derivatives are given in that table just below, right about there, right? And so as you can see, you got 24 values in that table, of which we're probably not going to use all of them. So if we scroll down here a little bit to see our questions, we're going to answer part A first. It says, given that h of x is f of g of x, let's find h prime of 2. Now, if you've tuned into any of my previous videos, you might have found out that I like to teach the chain rule using two different approaches. The one that uses the dy dx du dx notation, and then there's one that involves the f of x notation, which is the one that we're going to opt for here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this derivative of h by thinking about beginning with the derivative of the outer function. That would be the f function, f prime. But note that the inner function is still going to stay the same throughout that process. But then upon completing that outer derivative, we're going to multiply by the derivative of what was inside. So in this case, that would be our g prime. And that's going to be your derivative. Now, to evaluate this at 2, all we need to do is replace each of the x's that we see in that expression with our number 2. And if all goes well, we should be able to extract those values that we need from the table. So if we just go left to right, we start with f prime stays as he is, and then we see this g of 2. Well, the g of 2 means we want to look at the g column, cross-index it with the 2 row, and we see that we're going to get 3 for that particular value. Now for the g prime, we're going to just pop on over to that column, and we see that the g prime value of 2 would be our 3/2 here. And we're just about done, except for the fact that we have to evaluate f prime at 3. Notice that that is also going to be delivered in this table as a value of -1. And we need to remember that our relationship between those two pieces is one of multiplication. And so when we do that multiplication, we end up with our final answer, -3/2. All right, that's really all there is to it. Pretty straightforward. For part B, I'm going to let you make a decision here. If you want to pause the video, I certainly would encourage you to do that. And you can try this on your own and then start that video again, and let's see if we agree. Good to have you back. All right, let's take a look here. So for j of x, we're going to take the derivative to get j prime. The outer derivative is going to be g prime evaluated at f. And then we have to finish off with the derivative of what's inside, which is the f prime in this case. Next, what we need to do is replace every one of these x's with 1. So we have j prime of 1 equivalent to g prime of f of 1 multiplied by f prime of 1. Now at this point, we start evaluating from the table. F of 1, we note, is going to be 5 in this case. And our f prime of 1 is going to be -1. Now we go looking for the g prime of 5, which we note is located down here at -1/2. And by the time we multiply that -1/2 by -1, we are going to get +1/2 for our final answer. And hopefully I described this pretty well in that you don't have to worry so much about formulas and algebra, but it's a great way for the College Board and the AP exam itself to really ensure that you guys know the structure of the chain roll. And it's very possible that you could see a problem like this on the AP exam in May. Anyway, I hope this helps. Keep studying your calculus, and we'll see you next time.